We are joined now by Non-Proliferation and Biodefense Program Deputy Director at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, Andrea Stricker. Andrea, thank you for being with us on the Rundown this evening.
Thank you for having me.
Right now, the big question being that is still up in the air as no one truly knows, but it's if the United States would support an Israeli strike, because that seems to contradict the messaging coming from the Trump administration that right now seems more focused on diplomacy.
Right. Great to be with you. I think the timing of this leak is interesting, to say the least. I think there are a couple of possibilities. Either former Biden officials are behind it and want to play up the U.S. intelligence community's assessment that such a strike would be a failure, would only set back Iran's nuclear program by a few weeks or months. And that would be done to drive support for diplomatic options. On the other hand, if Trump officials are behind the leak, they may want to build additional pressure on the regime to make a new nuclear deal, which the president has stated is his preference. And so they may be doing this to sort of indicate that there are military options on the table, and that would increase the chance that the regime would come to the table.
Well, we did hear from the Iranian president, Masoud Pezeshkian, who says that even if these nuclear facilities, they were to be struck, they can't deprive Tehran from its ability to build new ones. And so that is the question then, as you mentioned, if the strike would not completely take out the nuclear capabilities of Tehran, how likely is it that then Tehran could rebuild or still has all of the plans in place to continue its nuclear program?
Right. Washington needs to walk a fine line here between deterring an Iranian breakout to nuclear weapons and actually provoking one with this increasingly heated rhetoric. I do think that the U.S. has other options besides what's described in these U.S. intelligence assessments, and that is to use actually large bunker buster bombs carried on B-2 aircraft. And that would cause far more damage than what the U.S. intelligence community points to, and it would probably be permanent and disable key facilities for good. And any goal of any exercise that Israel and the U.S. could actually redo to simulate a strike like this would be positive. The Juniper Oak exercises haven't been held for 2 years now, and reholding those to showcase the two countries' ability to jointly destroy these facilities would be positive.
A fine line, certainly, that the United States is walking right now, as you mentioned. Is Iran warming to it? Any sort of an idea of diplomacy? Do you think that Iran is going to become on board with Trump's plans?
I think the Supreme Leader will always signal that he's against diplomacy so that he doesn't have to actually bear any of the consequences of what happens if his team reaches a deal. But nuclear talks actually open another can of worms because the U.S. and their partners need to avoid another weak nuclear deal like the 2015 deal that let Tehran retain key nuclear assets and then just revolve the nuclear crisis down the line. So experience with that deal has showed that only the full, verified, and permanent dismantlement of the regime's nuclear program is a deal that's worth giving sanctions relief to a terrorist regime.
Andrea Stricker, interesting developments indeed. Thank you for discussing it and giving us your analysis. Thank you.